Hey everyone, welcome back to the garage. Well, as you can see, I've rolled a Honda ST90 up onto the table. It's going to be the next project I work on. Last fall, in October of 2023, I hosted a 90-mile ride and invited some of you subscribers to show up and ride along with me. And then I posted a few weeks ago that we're going to have another ride on April 27th of 2024. And again, have invited some of you guys to come join me. Well, about 20 of you have responded, said, yeah, we'll be there. And got an assortment of bikes. Got some CT70s, SL70s, S65s, some of the new CT125s, an old school CB125 from the early 80s. Got somebody's going to bring a fairly new Honda Navi. Kind of excited about that. I've never seen one. But no one has said anything about an ST90. So me being me and liking to be a little bit different, I was like, okay, I guess that's the next bike we're going to build for this ride in April. So I'll bring you in. Let's show you a little bit closer what the bike looks like and give you a little bit of history on it. All right, so as I mentioned, this is a Honda ST90. They made 3 models of this particular bike. This is a K0, the very first model made. Oh, is it not going to focus? 11 of 72 is the build date on this particular one. It came in 2 colors, this kind of reddish, and then it had the mighty green color. These are by far and away the ugliest of the 3 versions. Just that simple decal is all it had. So very similar to a Honda CT70. Basically from this point up, the frames are almost identical, dimensions and measurements. This one has like a little extra bracing here and so forth, but you could put a CT70 front end on it. That is actually a CT70 seat, not an ST90 seat. They do use a little, they use a different fender. They've got the 14-inch tires. The swing arm is mounted on the outside of the frame instead of being inside the frame on the CT70. The big difference between one of these and a CT70 is from here down. This used the 3-bolt mounting for the engine, where the CT70 just has 2. So the issue with these is you can't just bolt in a Lifen without doing something here to get it to fit. It's not a direct bolt in. This particular bike, that's not the right tail light. That's something I fabricated on it. They do come with the toolbox here. Kind of cool. It should have turn signals on it. I believe those are the correct handlebars, but that's not the correct headlight. That's just an aftermarket, style headlight. I think it did have something similar. I think it still had the speedometer in it, but it was not the triangular shape like a CT70. I think it was more of a 4-sided speedometer or something. Like I said, it's got the 14-inch tires all the way around. And like I said, it would have had turn signals on the front too. And it's got this funky thing here for releasing the handlebars to allow it to fold down or do something. I'm not exactly sure what all that does. We've got to take it apart because I've got some growly bearings and it doesn't turn very smoothly. So which is a big reason why I quit riding it. So we're gonna take that apart. So I got this bike April of 2016 as a basket case, and then got a title for it. And I originally put a Daytona 190 engine in it before there were 212s. Put that in there. And it didn't stay in there very long. I wasn't a real big fan of that engine. And then I had a 140 Lifen in it for a while, and then that went into another bike when the steering started kind of being wonky and I kind of quit riding it. And so it's just sat like this for, oh gosh, a number of years. But it's ready I'm gonna bring it back out of retirement. So the first thing we have to tackle is making some brackets to get a life and engine to bolt into here. And what I did in the past was I made a cradle that bolted to the frame, and then the engine bolted to that. I used that cradle in a different frame and wound up selling that bike. So I've got to start from scratch on building the cradle. Luckily, on my CNC plasma table, I should still have the files of what I cut out. Now I will attempt and try to do my best to show you exactly what what I got going on here, because I know a lot of people are interested in this. But if the filming or whatever is not all that great, I certainly apologize. So what I've done is I have plasma cut out 2 brackets, and they are essentially identical except for right here, this bolt hole is not present on the bracket that's going to go on this side. And I'll show you why here. Well, I'll go ahead and show you now. Honda, mounting spot here, mounting spot here. The right side of the bike, those are in a line with each other. But on the left side of the bike, the mounting block on the top is wider, so it sticks out farther past than where this one does. So you just can't bolt it hits, I don't know if you can see that or not, if I'm showing that or not. So it hits something like that. So that's what that notch is cut for. You'll see it a little bit better here in just a second. I used 3/16 thick plate because that equals about 3/8 of an inch, and that is how much wider the ST90 frame is than a CT70, about 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to put 3/16 of an inch on both sides and try and take up that space. The bracket on the right side, there again, it's the same as the engine. All the holes on the right side of the frame are all on the same plane, let's say, and it just bolts right on. So let me go around over there and throw this one on real quick. Maybe you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take this bracket, and there's 3 bolts. And I'm just going to bolt that right to the frame. All right. That one's pretty easy peasy, no trouble at all. So now we've got a plate bolted to the frame. It, like I said, it just all sits flush, nothing special there. That's just a flat piece of 3/16 bolted to it. And it's got the bolt hole here that will allow a bolt hole here and here for the 2 bolts for the Lifen or aftermarket engine. Now, when we go to the other side, it doesn't all go together quite as simple as that one does. And I don't know if you really saw what I did over there. Let me take you out of the holder here for a second. So here is that bracket bolted to the frame in the 3 spots. And this is the top hole where the Lifen engine will mount. That's the bottom hole. And like I said, it all bolts on in one plane. All 3 of these are just the same spot. So it just bolts on there really easy. Sorry for my filming. I'll try and edit that out maybe. Okay, now when you come to this side, the 3 mounting holes are in the same spot. Let's see. And here. One here. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down and then show you what I'm talking about. Noise a little bit here. Okay, so these two bolt holes are on the same, but if you can see right here, the frame pushes out a little bit. Yeah, you might be able to see that. And I'm going to show you, it's about 3/16 of an inch, because this is a piece of 3/16 steel, and it just fits right between the bracket that I made and the frame. So that's how much it kind of comes out of there. So I'm going to take another bolt. I've cut this little piece. It's got a hole in it. I'll mount that right up there. Oh, something along those lines. Now I've got my little test engine here, and you'll see that it just slips right between those two. By adding the 3/16 on each side, that gives me the exact width I need to put that in there. And then lines up with the bolt hole on the other side, and then I've got that notch, but somehow I have to bridge all this. So I have cut another piece of steel. Get in there. All right. So what I got to get is I got to go get my welder, and I got to tack this little tab to that little tab, and then tack it all to the bracket that I bolted in there, and then it'll all be one piece. And should hold that engine, something along those lines. So I'm going to get that done. I'm going to go get the welder, bring that in, and then we'll actually have to ditch this and put an engine in it that has the sprocket and the shaft, so we can check our chain alignment and see how we're doing. That's the most critical thing, is getting the chain, the sprocket in the right spot, and make sure it's not too much angled or whatever. That's why that front sprocket has a little bit of play in it. It can compensate for some of that, but you don't want it to be super bad. But all right, so I'm gonna go get my welder and put a couple little tacks right there, kind of hold that in place, and then we'll put a complete engine in here. Stay there. Yeah, it's kind of tough to tell without a sprocket up there. So, all right, I'm going to let's pull the engine. I think I'll actually cut a couple other little pieces, and maybe instead of just having it welded here, also have it on this other side. I think I'm going to weld the two little pieces together here so that it doesn't move on me. All right, watch your eyes, fellas. I don't think any of that's going anywhere. Looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and kind of finish welding that up good and solid. And when I get that done, then we'll bring it back and see if we can get an engine to bolt into it. So I spent a little time and kind of cleaned up my welds, make sure that all fit up underneath there. So I've got both brackets bolted in. It's now time to test fit the engine I want to use. I just picked this up off of Amazon. X Pro 4-speed. I think it's a 4-up manual. Looks like it came with, you know, the Kickstarter. And looks like it's got the intake tube and some other things. It's got a shifter and those sort of deals, like most of them do. I do not think this came with a carburetor or anything, which is not a big deal because I'm going to use the Nibbi 22 millimeter anyway. Oh, the engine's black. So that's a little bit different than the silver. Yes, it is looks like it is a 4-up. All right, I'm going to get my little lift and put here and set that on there so I can lift that up a little easier to set it up in there. All right, as you can see, I took the side case off to try and maybe make life a little easier for us. Hopefully I can clear that brake pedal over there. It's interesting, this engine seems to have rubber mounts for the engine. Brake pedal giving me fits. It is. All right, there's the bottom bolt. Oh, we're a little tight. I don't know if it's because of the rubber mounts. Oh, there it goes. Actually, it's a pretty good fit. Doesn't seem to have too much wobble. Ah, there we go. All right, I'm going to get this down out of the way, and then I need to go grab a chain, and we're going to drape a chain over it and see what our chain alignment looks like. I apologize, I don't have a brand new chain. This is a used one I've taken off. It's a little stiff, but I think for our purposes it will work just fine. Oh, that looks pretty straight. That looks pretty good. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and shorten this chain. I might put a bigger sprocket on here first. What size did this engine come with? I think that says 14. And we want to go to like a 17. So I'm going to take that off, see if I got a 17 tooth sprocket to put on there. Then we will adjust the chain. All right, fellas, so I have thrown a chain on it. Got it somewhat adjusted. Just eyeballing it down through there. It looks like it's pretty good. We're going to jack it up here a little bit. See if we can spin that back tire and see what it looks like with it off the ground. All right, there we go. Is it in gear, out of gear? Some of that, what you're hearing, is the chain has got some stiff spots in it. I think that is going to work fantastically. Yeah, a lot of people question that slop in these sprockets. Oh, is this? I see that on Facebook and someplace on some forums. They go, "Is this right? Should it be like that?" Yes, it should. It should have a little bit of movement there. It's kind of a self-aligning if you are slightly off a little bit, but I think we've got it dialed in pretty decent. I don't think we'll have any trouble with that. So, all right, I think I'm gonna wrap it up for today. Now that we've got the engine in it, but we still got a lot of work to do. I want to take out the old wiring harness, and like I said, I got to take that front end apart to fix the stiffness and turning that and so forth. So we'll keep working on this bike. Do you guys get as easily distracted as I do? I had zero intentions of coming over to the shop today and working on this bike. My plan was to get this place started cleaning it up with all you guys coming on April 27th. I've kind of got a little bit of a disaster here, and I want to work on the shop and start picking things up. But anyway, what do? I walk in the door, I walk by this. First thing that hits me is, how am I going to mount the rear turn signals on this? I've got the toolbox, but there should have been a bracket that came out and kind of down, and that's where the turn signal mounted, and someone has cut that part of the bracket off of this. So, me being me, I spent 15 minutes and I whipped up a couple mounts. They're gonna go right here, and we're gonna put some turn signals on this bike today. I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is where I'm talking about. This piece, this flat piece here, should have extended over and down, and they mounted, and someone's just trimmed them off on both sides. So my plan is something similar, but they're going to come up higher. And just like that, we've got a couple turn signal mounts. Seat comes down, just clears them. They're kind of tucked in, kind of tight. I like that. I don't like them when they stick out too far. I think that's going to look pretty good and work pretty well. So I guess I better start cleaning the place up now. All right, so I put in a couple hours and worked around the shop and picked up some things and cleaned a little bit. I'm done for that. I'm done with that for the day. Let's go back to the bike. It's a lot more fun. I'm looking at exhaust. I actually have an ST90 exhaust, but I think I'm going to go with one of these CT70 clone, Chinese clone exhausts. I think I can drill it out and get it to flow a little bit better. And I just like the way it looks. You know me, I'm a CT70 fan, so this is reminiscent of a CT70. Fits up into the engine real well. It actually fits on the mount, the right length. But I don't like how far it kicks it out. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. The exhaust sits real far away from the shock. Now, all the time online, Facebook and so forth, I get guys that say, oh, I don't like these exhausts. It sits too far away from the shock, blah, blah, blah. And that's because a lot of times if they're putting this exhaust on a K0 CT70, they leave this thing on there, and that pushes the exhaust out. With this little spacer, the exhaust should have just a flat plate, a bracket here that's just flat. Honda did away with these and then went with this little dog leg bracket, and that's what these exhausts are copied after, is those. So if you use the dog leg bracket and this, it really pushes the exhaust out. But I'm going to do just the opposite here. I think what I'm going to do is actually install this to get it away from the shock a little bit. Plus the the way the curves on this thing, it doesn't want to fit up against that shock very well. It's kind of puts it in a bind. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to install that spacer, cut this bracket off, and just put one that's straight, a flat one, and then that should get me back over here closer to where the exhaust needs to be. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this off, make that little bracket. I don't have the exhaust gasket washer thing up there, so it's not super tight up at the front. But okay, I think that'll work. I got to take it off and do some finish welding, but take you out of this so you can kind of see what I did. Basically, I cut that dog leg bracket off. I took it back there to the workbench and took a BFH to it, flattened it out, and then I just kind of going to weld it right back on there. So I'm actually going to use the bracket that came off of the exhaust, but with that extension, the lip that's rolled around over that doesn't interfere with it. So, you know what? I touched that and that was hot. All right, I'm going to take that back off, finish that up, and then we'll move on to the next item. I think I'm ready to take the front end off of this bike, and I don't know if it's going to show up on film or not, but this front end, like right there, it just rolled over a bearing, and then it caught a spot where it just stopped. Right there, it's just really, really stiff. The other thing that's wrong is it doesn't have a steering stop on when you turn to the right. It's broke. The one on the left works, but we've got to get, oh, I don't know if you guys can hear it. We got the 1015 or whatever it is, the tornado siren going on outside. I think I'm going to start by taking off the handlebars. Now, I'm going to back up. I have never taken off an ST90 front end. So if I do this completely wrong, I apologize. I'm kind of learning this as we go here. I think I want to take the handlebars off just to get that extra weight out of there. I don't even know how this whole thing here works. Hey, I gotta get let's get a hammer and break that loose. Okay, so what's the idea here? I think you're supposed to be able to lift this handle up. And what does that gain you? I'm not 100% sure I understand this whole setup. Oh, I forgot to take the brake lever off. Hang on a second. There we go. There's the handlebars. Okay, so if you lift it, I guess it just allows you to spin that, but what does that get you? I really don't, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really understand that whole get up, why you need to do that. But anyway, okay, so to get this apart, it looks like there is a nut with a cotter pin here at the bottom, and it looks like we've got to take the fender off to get to that. Looks like my fender's got one broken bolt in it. We'll have to maybe try and fix. Okay, and then that allows us to get to this. Probably should have got some meat on those pliers. All right, 3 days later after I get the cotter pin out, wow, that's just gonna come off by hand. Okay, there's a castle nut and a lock washer. Does that just pull out of there? It does. Okay, that allows you to take that out. Okay, there's a nut on the top. Now, if I take these off the forks, will that just pop off of there? I think it might. Beneath this that's holding it all in place, or if it's just stuck together. Okay. Looks like there's another locking collar right here. All right, we gotta get some more tools. I'm assuming this has the loose ball bearings just like all the other Hondas do. I put down, I don't know if it's showing up in a video, yeah, we look like we could use some grease. Oh yeah, I don't want to do that yet, or those bottom ones will fall out. Okay, and there's a race. Oh, it is dry, yeah. Yeah, we need to. I think I started to say, I put a towel down underneath all this so that if any of these little so if they fell, they hopefully hit the towel and not bounce, but I just heard one hit steel. It went somewhere. Boy, will I ever find that. Oh, there it is. Found it. Amazing. Okay, I'm going to get a little magnet and pick all those out, count those. If it's like a CT70, there should be 21 of them. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 2 more make 21. So they're, all of them are there. Now, with all of them are on the top, we're going to lift up, lift our lift here, and hopefully lift this up. I don't know if I'll have enough lift to be able to, I might have to wind up take that front tire off. All right, I'm going to grab some of these while I can. All right, perfect. So I am going to take a little time and clean up top and bottom race, clean all the grease off of these bearings, have those ready to go. and then I'll bring you back in just a few minutes, and we'll talk about what we're going to have to do to fix this cast bottom triple tree to get that steering stop fixed. I don't know how well it'll show up or not, but this is the good steering stop right here, and there should be one right here, and it's broke off. I don't know if you can see how high, see how tall this one is. Well, this one is broke off, and it goes underneath. And I'm not really showing it. I'm in a bad angle. This is the steering stop on the frame. It comes around and hits these spots right here, and they've obviously downed the bike, and it has snapped off that little piece. So I'm going to take the horn off, and so I can get in there a little bit better, see if I can't clean that up, see if I can't weld something on there. And I don't know if this is steel or if it's cast iron. I'll find out when I go to weld it and see how well it holds. All right, guys, I think we're ready to try and go back together with some of this. I've got the bearing races all cleaned up. I've got the bearings themselves cleaned up, all re-greased. That front end up off the there's our steering stop. Got one on this side. That all looks pretty good. Okay, I will get that all snugged down. I want to take these fork gears off because I'm going to build my own, kind of like I did on the yellow SL70, if you saw that video, to hold the headlight, because I want to put some turn signal holes in them to put some front signals on. I've got to do a little work to this fender. I've got a broken bolt right here I want to try and extract, some dents and dings. So let me get a lot of that stuff put back together. I want to also test the horn, make sure it's going to work. So put some of that stuff back together, and when we get ready to do the fork gears or something, I'll bring you back. Good horn. All right, guys, so here's where I'm at. I've got the front end put back on, fender fixed, bolt extracted, horn on. I cut some tubes that will slide over top of the forks here. And luckily these tubes have a welded seam that's a straight line right down them. And I use that as a reference point when I go to weld the ears on. So I've got a headlight bucket. Now this is a different headlight bucket than what was on this bike when we tore it apart. And the reason I'm going to use this bucket, even though it's broken in a few spots, we'll have to use that hot stapler on it. You can see some cracks and so forth. But this is I believe this is an original style headlight, and it's got a 60 mile an hour speedometer. And you can see the shape of that speedometer is different from the triangular ones. I thought about using one of the the new Trail Buddy speedometers in that old bucket, but I think I want to, we might push over 50 mile an hour on this bike. I don't know. I don't know if I'll have it geared and carbureted properly enough to do much over 50, but I thought the 60 mile an hour speedometer would be nice. So what I've got to do, I've cut out some ears, and I've got to go back and weld these on to there so that we can bolt that headlight on. And then we've still got to figure out how to put a ring and stuff on it. But I think to the next step I want to do is put these headlight ears on. So I think I like that. I think it'll work all right. I need to take this all back apart, finish welding these ears. I just kind of got them tacked on, probably paint them silver to kind of blend in. Now, some of you guys might be asking, you saw that this headlight, it's broken. The original way the ring mounted in was just like a Trail 70, a CT70. It's got a little plastic lip right here, part of the headlight, and the ring has a little part that hooks underneath that, and then there is a captured nut inside this plastic, and then you run a screw through the headlight ring, and that's what all holds it together. Well, this is all broke, and that captured nut's not there. And I know somebody's probably asking, well, how in the world are you going to mount that headlight? Well, what I'm going to use is one of these aftermarket 12-volt headlights, and see how it's got little tabs on it. So it will fit up in there, and what I'm going to have to do, one, I hate to do it, but since it's already kind of broke and I'm not using it the correct way anyway, I've got to get rid of, I'll have to grind off this little lip right here so that the headlight can clear it, but the ring should fit up in there, and then I will have to drill 3 holes in the bucket to run the screws to line up with these, and that's how I'm going to hold the headlight in there. So I'm going to take it all back apart, finish welding that. I tell you what, I've done more fabrication on this bike than I've done on any bike in a long time. You know, with the engine mounts, the turn signal mounts back there, these mounts, the exhaust I had to fabricate. I did it off camera. I added a little extension to the chain guard so it would kind of flow better with the stator cover on the engine, so I had to fabricate that. There's just been multiple fabrication projects on this bike. I think I'm actually done with that though, so I'll wrap that up and then we can start the final assembly on this. You guys that are kind of sharp-eyed, I don't know if anybody knows it or not, these are not the same handlebars that were on the bike originally. The original handlebars did not have this lever control on the left side that has the turn signals and so forth, the horn and the turn signals. And I found this set of handlebars that has everything, so I'm going to go ahead and go with these. Also, these I think are a little straighter. I think the other ones had a bend from where they wrecked it, and that's when they broke off the steering stop and bent the handlebars. So rather than trying to retrofit some turn signal controls on the other bars, I'm just going to go with these, and I've already checked them to make sure all the wiring's good, so everything's good there. So anyway, pull it back apart again, and let's finish this headlight up. All right, guys, so I hope this is the last day of assembly on this bike. I've pretty much got it wrapped up. Basically, everything from the back end up to toward the forks here is done. What I've got to do to finish this up, I finally got some turn signals in that I'm going to put here, but I really want to shorten them. I don't want them to stick out quite so far. So I've got that to do. And the other thing, this bike, these ST90s were semi-automatic transmissions, so they did not have a clutch lever here or the provision for a clutch lever. Now, I have found a unit off, I believe an SL70 or an XL70 or something like that, but I can put on there. But unfortunately, Honda doesn't have, you know, I wish they had 2 bolts and you could just take that off, but you can't. You have to slide everything off the end of the handlebar, which means I have to take the turn signal control here loose, pull the wiring from it all the way out of the handlebar, slide that off, slide this on, and blah, 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 and put all that back in there. So that's what my project is today. I want to give you a little bit of a look at what the turn signals, well, shoot. So that's what it looks like if I left it in its stock form, and I don't think I really want it to stick out that far. I think I want to tuck the turn signal in just a little bit farther. So I'm going to take you over to the workbench and show you what we're going to do. These signals come apart fairly easy. I'm going to go ahead and take all this. That's the mounting hardware that goes on the threads. Then there is a retaining bolt here you take that out of there, you should be able to slide this. Should be able to. There it goes. Slide that post out of that light housing and off of there. And what it has, it's got a little notch. Oh, focus. I don't know if you can see that little notch right there. That's to keep this from the light from turning. The light from turning on it. There's a little tab on the inside that catches that. So the plan is to cut that down and then re-put that notch. And that's exactly what I've done here. I just cut that thing in half, maybe a little shorter than half. And once you've got it cut off, you can slide it on. All right, let's go set this on the bike and see what it looks like. So now we're looking at something more like that on each side. And I think that I'll like that a lot better, so we're going to go with that. Yeah, let's see how easy this comes off of here. Really dread having to pull this off and pull all that wiring out of there, but you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess, sometimes. All right, which bundle of wires are we? Boy, that doesn't want to move at all. All right. Little by little, it's starting to go. There we go. Boy, that's going to be fun putting those back in there. Look at that. Look at the stuff that came out with it. All right. All that to put that one on. Which way does it go? That. Now, the real fun, see if we can get the wiring put back down in that. I think what I'm going to do is tape that up and maybe put a piece of wire, something long that I can run down through there and kind of fish it. I think I'll lubricate these up with some WD-40 real well. And then see what happens. See if I made this too stiff to make the turns. There we go. Did it. We're gonna make it, fellas. We're gonna make it. I think. All right, now where's the locating pin? There, right there. Booyah. I'm going to do a quick test just to make sure that the wiring is still good. I didn't screw anything up too bad. This gray wire is the power to the turn signal. So if I hit the orange and blue, I should not get anything because it was in the off position. Now it's turned left. We should get a signal on the orange and nothing on the blue. That's good. And now we should get a signal on the blue and not on the orange. Okay. Turn signal switch works. That's good. Let's hook the I'll just hold it. Here we go. The green one is the horn button. I'm going to hook one there. And then I'm just going to touch the other one to ground the handlebar. And the horn button works. All right, guys, we're good to go. Let's get these thrown on the bike. All right, guys, there it is, all put together. I'm pretty happy with it, but I will admit that this was an interesting build for me. Typically, when I build one of these projects, I do it over like a 3-day period. I come in, spend all day at the shop and kind of jam, and over 2 or 3, maybe 4 days, I get a bike all put together, get it assembled and ready to go. I just got some stuff going on, and I couldn't dedicate that kind of time to this bike, so this one took almost 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks to build, and with that being different for me, I just never felt like I got into a rhythm on this thing. It had so much fabrication to be done and just some different things going on. I would come over and I'd work for an hour here, an hour there, and it's just, I'm hoping everything works out okay on this bike. It seems to be okay. We're not going to take it for a ride in this video. I'm going tomorrow to my BMV, Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and going to register it and get the plates for it. And I don't want to ride it until I'm legal and can go out and actually give it a good shakedown run. So we're going to walk around the bike, take a look at it, fire it up so you can hear it, and then we'll call that good for today's video, and then we'll come back here in a few days and we'll actually take it for a proper ride. So with all that said, let me bring you in, give you a look at it. All right, before we actually jump into it and start talking about parts that I used and fabrication that was done and the overall journey that was taken to get this bike back up and put back on the road, I think I'll take a walk around it, just kind of let you soak it in and see what I've done. And if you got any questions, hit me up in the comments. You might have seen this bike sitting over in the corner of the shop. I've had it for a long time. It had engines in it in the past, but it hasn't had an engine in it for a number of years. And I'm just really excited to have it back up on the road and be able to ride this thing. So, as mentioned in the very beginning of the video, what I started with as a roller was a Honda ST90 K0, the very first model of the ST90. Now, as you can see, we've put a aftermarket engine in it, and you saw build all the brackets and do all that. I think the engine, I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. I'll put a link to it. I can't remember if I got it off of eBay or Amazon. I've got a Nibbi 22 millimeter carb that came off of Amazon, and the little air cleaner was an Amazon product. We put a Trail Buddy TB515 wiring harness in it, front to back, and converted everything, all the lights and everything, to 12 volts. I used a key switch from Amazon that is a kind of like a Honda CT70 K0 switch. It's a 3-position switch. So I've got it wired. It's got an off, on with no lights, and then on with lights. We put turn signals all the way around, and we had to fabricate some mounts and so forth for front and back. The turn signals came off of Amazon also. As far as fabrication, you saw me do the mounts for the engine. What you didn't see was like the chain guard here. The original one only was from here back. The stator cover on the original engine would have flowed more into it. Well, this cover was shorter, so I had to add a little extension and just to kind of, get it to flow and cover up the chain. I wanted to use the engine guard, and the foot peg mounting bolt pattern on the bottom of the original engine is different from this engine. So it wasn't going to bolt right up. Plus the fact that we lowered this engine through those new engine mounts, it wasn't going to reach. So the engine guard has got some bracket, a flat piece of steel welded to it with some holes drilled that allowed me to bolt it to the bottom of the engine. So that worked out really well. I had to make these headlight ears and these tubes that cover the forks to be able to mount the turn signals. Original headlight and speedometer, headlight bucket and speedometer. I did use an aftermarket ring, and there's 3 holes I had to drill into it to get that ring, and one on the other side to get that ring to mount. You might have seen earlier in the video, I had the original ST90 air cleaner on it, but with that on there, it didn't allow me to put an air cleaner on the filter, on the carburetor, so I went away with that. And it just so happened that that air cleaner mounted with 3 bolts, one here, here, and here. Well, these were really close to being the same spread as one of these grab handles. I had to take the grab handle and kind of pinch it a little bit to get the holes to line up. So I bolted that on there, just filled that hole with a stainless bolt. And then the ST90 did not, it has the recessed areas for the stickers, but it never used any stickers because the air cleaner covered it on this side, the exhaust covered it on the other side. So I had some spare CT70 stickers. I know the red doesn't quite match the colors, but oh well, it is what it is. And then there was actually there's a hole right here in the frame from where the air cleaner had a tube that went into the frame and came around and connected to the original carburetor. So I just covered that hole with a little Minibike Mike sticker. So that is the original decal from the ST90. I did leave the toolbox, and you can access it. You have to kind of turn it, and then it opens up. So you can put tools or whatever. I'll put my registration and that sort of insurance cards and that sort of thing in there. The exhaust, I showed you that where I had to fabricate this. That's one of those cheap, probably eBay or Amazon, the Trail 70 knockoff Chinese. I think I got the foot pegs. They came from Amazon, and then I had to shorten one of the fabrication items was to shorten the kickstand itself, was too long. So I had to do that. Clutch cable came off of Amazon, and that's just a regular Honda CT70H cable. So anyway, I think we'll roll it down off the table and fire it up and let you hear it run, and we'll go through all the electronics and kind of show you what I got hooked up on the handlebars. Steering is so much better since we took that front end apart and re-greased the bearing, cleaned them and re-greased everything. So now I did drill out some holes. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's kind of dark, but you can kind of see there they are, around the edge I drilled some holes just to let that exhaust flow a little bit better. So I mentioned the key switch. Right now it's just in the first position, so it allows the engine to run, but there's no lights that will operate. Nothing on the dash is working or anything like that. The headlight, the way I have it wired, would come on in that key position, but this particular bike has an off position on the headlight switch up here. So if I turn this to low, we should have a headlight now. We do. And then I can reach up here and turn it to high and low. As a matter of fact, we even have the high beam indicator working. That comes on, see that? All right, then if I turn the key to the second position, you saw the neutral light come on. I hooked up the turn signal indicator on the speedometer for both sides. In the second position, the tail light comes on. And then if I reach up here to the brake lever on the handlebars, brake light up there, and then one on the foot. And I even hooked the horn up, and this is the original 6-volt horn that was on the bike. Works great. Like I said, I put a new clutch cable on it. The brake cable and the speedometer cable were original to the bike. That throttle cable, I think, was original to the bike. Those mirrors came from Amazon. So I'll put, like I said, I'll put links in the description to everything that I use. So, but there it is. This is the bike I'm going to ride on the April 27th, 100 and something plus mile ride. The one thing I don't know about yet is the gearing. I may have it over geared and geared too high. We'll find out in a couple days when I take it for a ride. So we may have to put it back up on the table and play with some gearing issues, but I'm extremely happy. I'm really, really happy with the way the bike's turned out. So anyway, guys, thanks for following along. I'll see you in a couple days when we take this thing for a rip.